everybody, and welcome back once again to DreamHack Atlanta 2017. We've just had one of the longest matches of the entire event, but the show does not stop there. We're going to go to our third quarterfinal. We're going to have it between Icer and Naiman, and with me on the desk are going to bring you the game, Lothar and Falcone. How's it going, guys? Lothar?
Hopefully this one will not take 2.5 hours.
We're expecting another 3-2, actually reverse sweep this time, so yeah.
We'll bring in the medics for Lothar if it goes another 2.5 hours, I feel.
It's one of those series where we've got relative unknown versus very well-known pro player. We've had quite a few of those today. The last game being a bit of an exception, Icer versus Naiman. We were saying earlier, we think that Naiman's got to have the edge here. He's such a well-renowned player. He's got so much tournament experience, so many results behind him. It should be an easy game, in theory, based off of their names. But Icer has come this far.
And who was he actually playing in the top 16? I can't remember. But
yes, it's Icer and it's Naiman, and obviously we all know a lot about Naiman. He was the 2016 EU champion, but we don't know much about Icer. So we're going to have a go now and find out what he has to say about himself.
My name is Eric Swanson. My nickname in Hearthstone is Icer, and I come from Peoria, Illinois. It's been great so far. I mean, you're always playing ladder at home, you'll see the names online, but you don't really have a face to the name yet, so it's great to just even just, besides playing the games, actually just walk around and talk to some of the players that you've played before. I'd say my all-time favorite deck is Handlock. I mean, I haven't been able to play it in a long time, but it was the deck that I got Legend with the very first time, so it's kind of special to me that way. I think the first time that I beat Trump on ladder was a big moment for me. He was one of the streamers that I watched a lot. So the first time I beat him, playing him, I was kind of freaking out. And then when I finally beat him, I had my friend download the VOD and upload a video to YouTube so I could watch it later, that sort of thing. It's always really fun.
And that VOD that he was talking about is the first thing that comes up if you Google. So if you want to watch him beat Trump, have a look at that. He's also a bit of a coach. And I imagine if you want to be coached by Icer, now's a good time to get in there before those rates go up. Top 8 at DreamHack is probably going to put them up a little.
slide those DMs right now into his Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Top 8 could very soon become top 4, and then who knows after that? But he's got Naiman in the way. Of course, Icer's excited. All of the players here are excited, especially the ones that haven't had the experience yet. Whereas Naiman on the other side, he's going to be rock solid focused.
Yeah.
Naiman is very, very good for that.
Yeah, he was sat in the crowd during the last match, headset on, well, earphones in, etc. Just sat there looking at the screen. I don't think he was watching. He was just sat there like zombie-fied, just zoning out, ready for this one. Icer as well, he's going to get more chance to mix with players. The points he's gathered here are probably enough to get him into HCT Summer. He came 141st in the last list, so he just missed out by 2 or 3 points. So the points he's gathering here at DreamHack are going to put him in contention for another go at HCT. And so Icer will get this valuable experience here today. Naiman hasn't been around that much recently. We haven't seen much of him.
No, he was a lot more prevalent last year, especially with his HCT performances, etc. He's got a lot of tournament experience over the years, and he's here now. He's top 16, top 8, rather, ready to make a comeback and prove that he's still got it. And
Lothar, I think you've cast him many times in various other events as well. Is he a player you rate highly?
I would say he's one of the best players in the world. And of course, he had some issues in the past, but in general, I think Naiman did prove everyone wrong, and he is one of the, if not one of the best players in Europe, then one of the best players in the entire world.
Yeah, and we're going to get to find out who gets the best of this. We're going to go into those picks and bans now and see what they have brought and what they have banned.
Let's take a look at the decks then. Naiman is bringing his aggro druid, which got banned. Actually, both druids.
Yeah, druid ban on each side is a little bit surprising in 2 lineups which both run Shaman. Shaman has definitely been the most popular ban during this tournament. Paladin present on Naiman's side too. I don't know. Quite surprised to see this.
Yeah, Druid getting banned out. We've talked all tournament about Druid versus Shaman. Usually the Shaman's been the one that's banned, but with those aggro Druids being a nuisance to other aggro decks, interesting to see them getting gone over there. Anything else interesting there, Lothar, in the tech choices? Obviously, you'll get more time during the game.
Well, the thing is that both players are playing at really aggressive lineups. So the ban on the Druid is actually very impactful in this match, because which is actually very funny. The Druid is one of the most board-centric decks when it comes to the aggressive decks that we have in current metagame, and that means they are fantastic against other aggro decks because they are capitalizing on the fact that they will have better traits.
Right. And with that in mind, who do you think is going to win this with the bans taken care of? Who do you fancy to go through? Will it be experience or will it be the inexperience?
I would say it's the experience. I mean, when you asked me yesterday who is going to take the entire tournament, I said Naiman. And I'm going to have to stick with it. I mean, he is here in the top 8 and he's looking to take another player in the way to his title.
And Falcone, are you going to do your normal thing of being argumentative, or are you going to actually agree?
I'm going to agree this time. You can't fight against Naiman. The lists on both sides look solid, and with this kind of thing, experience is the only thing differentiating them.
Yeah, well, I think we can just about go into the game now and see what's happening. Going to get into that first game of this, and you guys take it away, Lothar and Falcone.
All right, ready to go with our penultimate game in the round of 8. We've both already said Naiman is the person that we've got our eyes on to win this. I'm sure that most people watching back home will feel the same way. Do you think there's anything that Icer can do to pull this out?
First of all, he needs to play flawlessly. Second of all, he needs to be calm. Like, I'm not sure if this is his first appearance on a big stream, but many players just fall down because of the pressure, because of the fact that they have that back in their mind that they're being watched, judged by thousands of viewers. And that's not something that comes easy to the players in general. That's something that you learn.
All right, well, it looks like we are starting at game number 1. It's going to be Icer's Secret Mage versus Naiman's Paladin.
Well, that is one of the matchups that can go either side. Especially since Naiman is running a version... Wait, sorry, that's an Icer version. The Mage has 2 primary glyphs, of course. Other than that, a mirror entity. That's actually a secret that we don't see often nowadays in the builds from the Mage. Since a lot of creatures actually lost a lot of value in their stats, we have minions that have powerful battle cry and less statted attack and HP. Points. A really perfect example would be Jade Spirit, 4-mana drop that has 2 free stats and nothing apart from that.
Right.
So the mirror entity lost a lot of its own value.
We've actually seen a lot of weird secrets in the decks throughout the weekend, though. We've seen Potion of Polymorph, for example. Spellbender is another one we've seen quite a few of.
All right, well, we start the game right now. Inquisitor on turn 1 for Naiman, a really good opening, aggressive one, something that Paladin is looking forward to every single game. Wants to curve out and just have the synergy with the Murlocs as soon as possible. He doesn't have his War Leader or the Megazord yet in hand, but he will never complain about having Murlocs on turn 1.
And Icer will never complain about picking up the Mana Worm on turn 1.
Not.
Ready to play it immediately. Unfortunately, there's no reason for him to play the coin right now, so it's just a 1-3. And it contests the Valfin Inquisitor okay, but now Ice is going to have to start to worry about cards like Rockpool Hunter, about Murloc War Leader. And the Rockpool Hunter is there ready to potentially punish an early Sorcerer's Apprentice.
By the way, Blessing of Kings did get like a second life. It wasn't playable for such a long period of time in the entire Hearthstone career. Like the first time we actually have seen Blessing of Kings making an appearance was in the time when Aggro Paladin was relevant.
Yep.
That was like the first time I actually have seen in competitive decks. And other than that, nowadays when Finja was introduced to the game, the stocks of Blessing of Kings went up because of that. Because now suddenly you have a playable stealth minion that is applicable to a buff that is costing a lot of mana.
It's quite interesting. Naiman actually is only running 1 Blessing of Kings. Of course, he's running 2 Spike Ridge Steeds, which kind of does what Blessing of Kings does, but just much better. But now we're living in a world where these buffs on the Paladins are all very, very effective, and it makes a lot of sense that we're seeing so many of them now. Naiman gonna need to make his mind up right now. Is it gonna be the Hydrologist? Is it gonna be the Rockpool Hunter? Lothar, what do you think?
I think it will be the Rockpool Hunter.
Okay, you kind of cheated.
Did I? No, it's just, I have a delay
Okay,
built in.
I don't believe you. I don't have a delay, so...
We have the same screen. How does that...
Exactly.
All right, well, it's kind of awkward for Icer. He did get to draw his first secret, that he can play it on the next turn, but the mana burn on turn 1 now is really lackluster. With no Frostbolt to capitalize on that mana burn, it's basically being traded for little to no value.
Something I'm not sure that we have mentioned yet is the fact that there's an Arcane Giant just chilling in Icer's hand. Very, very heavy choice for this matchup. He's running it instead of cards like Pyros, instead of Yogg-Saron. Arcane Giant is the big end game of this deck. And it's something that hopefully is going to help Icer against these aggressive Murlocs when we get into the, I guess, mid to late game section. Ooh.
That is a good point, but at the same time, I'm not really convinced if the Arcane Giants are such a powerful option to actually justify switching out Yogg.
Exactly, yeah.
The difference between those cards is that they're both endgame, right? They both require those spells to be played before to make even it possible to play Yogg or the Arcane Giant. But the thing is that the Yogg is being played in this deck as a last resort button. If you use it, you're most likely losing the game.
Right.
Arcane Giant is capitalizing on the fact that you are a tempo deck and basically is another Crystal runner. So if you have both of those in multiples, you're focusing on one aspect of your deck while abandoning other aspect and the Yogg is there for a reason. So it seems, I mean, probably works for Icer since he's in the top 8.
It's made him this far, and you know, speaking of the tempo, Icer got to pick up the Kirin Tor Mage there, perfect timing. Played it immediately with the secret. Now he can curve into Cabal Crystal Runner next turn. He's continuously got more and more minions hitting the board. He's now going to have the 2/2 adding to his side.
And now Naiman is pushed to actually use the secret first because he needs to play around Counterspell.
Right.
So he needs to play his own secret from the Hydrologist to get that Counterspell out of the way.
As it happens, though, it's the Mirror Entity is going to go off right now.
Yeah, but of course he doesn't know that
at the time.
before
Yeah, right.
picking the secret.
Exactly. He had to play Hydrologist in order to get the secret to then play it, which is why he couldn't play Blessing of Kings this turn.
Move quickly.
Infested Tauren sitting in Naiman's hand. That's kind of disappointing. That's not exactly what you're looking for when you get a Stone Kill Defender off. You want your Tyrians,
definitely.
Tarims.
Even Wicker Flame feels like, oh man, that is really not a good draw from my Stonehill Defender.
Yeah.
Even though it's a legendary, it's not a powerful legendary.
The other two legendaries are significantly better.
Although when you play against a Pirate Warrior, the Wicker Flame is a blessing, but at the same time, it doesn't have that much damage that to trade up with other minions.
Icer now going to take advantage of the Kirin Tor Mage on curve there. While 0 mana 5/5s do feel better, just ask Shaman. Playing this on turn 4 just to fill out the curve, putting a 5/5 on the board on turn 4, that's not bad at all. Icer does have control of this game for the time being, but if Naiman can just make one minion stick, then that Spike-Rich Steed next turn is going to be huge. And Naiman has some pretty effective means of getting there this turn. He can play Blessing of Kings to buff up the Hydrologist and make a value trade against the Kirin Tor Mage. Not the Kirin Tor Mage, the other one, the Cabal Crystal Runner. Then he can play Noble Sacrifice to block the Kirin Tor Mage, killing that, and protect both of his minions. And then Spike-Rich Steed's guaranteed to go off next turn. Alternatively, he could play Infested Tauren and Noble Sacrifice. Still, it pretty much guarantees that he can play Spike-Rich Steed next turn.
Unfortunately for Naiman, Icer is not playing. I mean, he didn't play another secret, which could have been a Spellbender, because then he has a huge problem.
Right.
Both of his spells that are played on the minion are basically buffs. He has no other way of checking for the Spellbender. So if there's one secret being played and you can't really check it, it renders 2 of your cards useless. You can't really play the Spike-Rich Steed
It does.
on an unknown secret if you play the Blessing of Kings first, that means your opponent still gets a huge minion and you lose tempo.
It does. Basically, as soon as Icer draws the Spellbender, Naiman's deck loses several of its tools, as you were saying. It just renders Spike-Rich Steed and Blessing of Kings entirely useless. So Naiman is going to want to get the Spike-Rich Steed down as early as possible. I'm surprised that he hasn't set up a board where something does survive. He had a few ways of doing it. He instead opted to just go all out and get rid of Icer's board. And now he's going to have to wait a little bit longer before he can play that 6-mana dinosaur of a spell.
I was quite surprised by the turn as well, but Naiman has something on his mind, basically, with this play. And look at that, Icer actually takes the bait and uses a Frostbolt just to play a tempo valet.
Without even getting its effect. That is a huge disappointment for Icer right there.
That's actually a huge thing, because now that Crucible Champion that Naiman played the turn before is basically did bait out a Frostbolt, like, for no apparent reason.
Right.
That is huge. I'm not sure if Naiman was anticipating that. I'm guessing not really. But it turns out to work pretty well out for him.
Doesn't even really matter too much for Naiman. Right. Oh no, there's a 2-3 on the board. Big deal. He can just drop this Infested Tauren. He's got the Noble Sacrifice. When he wants to block the attack from Icer, he's got the tool to do that. And now it does look like he's going to be able to play Spike-Rich Steed next turn. Icer picks up his second Arcane Giant. That's still not Spellbender, which means Naiman is going to get the Spike-Rich Steed to work.
That is a huge win for him.
Or not.
No, not really.
Gonna eat up the 5. So actually, Naiman just continuing to use up more and more of Icer's resources
Well,
on very little.
What Naiman can do is play the Blessing of Kings next turn, at least.
Yep. Oh. Ah, that's unfortunate.
Really, it fits the curve, but then it would have to override the True Silver Champion this turn.
So what's pretty funny is that Frostbolt ended up really mattering. Because if the Frostbolt was never cast, Naiman would have swung the True Silver Champion last turn, and Vine Cleaver would have been a perfect drop here.
Yeah, it would, but at the same time, I don't really think that it's that impactful. That Vine Cleaver could have been any other card, and it doesn't really matter that much, because he still has other options. The hero power of the Blessing of Kings, I think it's good enough to actually be played this turn and just get the use out of the True Silver Champion anyway. And even goes for the Megazord instead. I like that as well. He still has access to the Blessing of Kings to have the difference between using it from hand on a minion that is already on board and using it on a minion that is being spawned the same turn is a keyword that is on C, is the charge.
Yeah.
So basically you get a 4-mana 4/4 minion that has a charge on it. And this way Naiman just builds up the board first to grant himself more tempo.
Icer gonna just coin out an Arcane Giant here, okay. Taking advantage of the mana cost manipulation, it does contest the board that Naiman currently has, but Naiman has so many tools in his hand. He has Tyrion this turn if he wants it.
The Noble Sacrifice is insane. When you think about it, Noble Sacrifice is a card that grants you, in this case, 7 mana.
Right.
It's like, you know what? You can play that Arcane Giant. You don't have any other minions. You have no charge minions that can disrupt this Noble Sacrifice. So I'm going to eat your entire turn by playing a card for 1 mana that was generated from another minion that was actually useful on the board already.
You're right. It kind of has a similar effect to Sap in that respect.
Yes.
Your opponent spent all of their mana on that card, Sap gets rid of it, it has to come back another turn. Importantly, it's also going to just eat up 8 damage at some point. Naiman going to finally play the Spike-Rich Steed, though he can trade into the Arcane Giant twice if he wants to, but it looks like there's very little point when this Paladin deck is pretty good at just playing the face game. This is, as Lorinda has been calling it all weekend, this is what we've been calling a Hoi Paladin. Naiman does top out with Deathwing for 10 mana, and it just looks like at this stage, it's running the Secret Mage completely out of resources. Oh, there's Deathwing.
Well, those Murlocs can have poisonous.
Yeah, Gentle Megasaur Part 2 does seem pretty effective here. Is there anything that Naiman would prefer?
Even if it doesn't have the poisonous keyword from the Megazord, I feel like it's still okay if you can take 1 hit. from the Giant.
Isn't Wind Fury just lethal? Because Naiman can play Megasaur, give the 2 Murlocs Wind Fury, he can play Blessing of Kings on one of them. So say one Murloc deals 14 damage, the other deals 2, and then the Gentle Megasaur deals the other 5. That's 21 exactly.
Nice spot. We had that situation actually in the game before when Chucky had a turn 4 Megazord that would have get him lethal immediately with the Wind Fury, but unfortunately in those 3 options he didn't get it.
Which is why Naiman went with this play. Whereas he could have had a high chance to get it then, he opted to just play it pretty safe, drop a Tyrion. There's Spellbender, too late to block the Spike Ridge Steed.
Iconic duo. Spellbender is a little bit too late to to this Spike Ridge Steed, but at the same time there's still one Blessing of Kings,
there is
one Spike Ridge Steed left, but he needs to deal with the problems at hand first, and those are really big problems.
Despite the mess up I made yesterday, the counter spell does always interact first. It doesn't matter what order the secret are played. Apologize for that mess up before. But yeah, Icer puts down the 2 secrets. And Naiman still has the opportunity to just win the game right now. Now attack with the adapt would do it.
Well, Icer is not running a single ice beam.
Wait, yeah, it's just lethal on board. Who needs to adapt?
Naiman, of course, knows it because at this stage of the tournament, all the players have full knowledge about the deck list from their opponents. So there are no unconscious decisions or risk-taking when it comes to the primary cards from your opponent's deck. So first game goes to Naiman, 1-0. He's gonna play more with his Paladin, while Icer will need to switch, and his options are either Evolve Shaman, which is sporting a Sea Giant and a Barnes, so it's better in the mirror match. But that's about it. That's like the primary.
And that's going to be the deck.
Okay, so let's just stop at the Shaman. Those are the key cards that are different from any other Evolved Shamans, Devolved Shamans, whatever you call them, in the past or in this tournament. The Barnes is actually a cool addition. I really like it.
Yep.
It has synergy with the Bloodlust. It has synergy with Evolve as well. And if you get a doppelganger out of Barnes just out of nowhere, can win you the game.
It can. We've talked a little bit about, over the course of the weekend, how the Shaman deck is so favored against the Paladin. It's because the Shamans do run Devolve, which shut down a board full of Murlocs. But I also want to mention that having taken a good look at these deck lists, we said it was kind of strange that neither of the guys banned Shaman, but both of their Shamans run Sea Giant, which means their Shamans are good in the mirror, which means they probably don't want to ban the opponent's Shaman because they both feel quite comfortable with the game. This is one fast start on both sides, but there's a very key card in Icer's hand right now, and it's a card that Murlocs don't like very much.
Yeah, they don't really like those creatures at all. There are beasts that are ruining the lives of many Murlocs each year. No one does anything about it.
No year more than this year, though, Lothar, as Hungry Crab has finally made its way firmly into the meta.
You added the firmly. I just wanted to say that Hungry Crab was actually playable in the first year of Hearthstone.
Right.
Trump was doing it to our choices a few times. Quite funny. Right, well, the Chum was played on 10-1. Naiman is still thinking about playing the other one, or the Inquisitor as well. The problem is, Icer has 4 cards that are completely ruining his game plan. Of course, we didn't see them yet, but a Flametongue Totem and Jade Claws, those are the tempo-based cards that will ruin Naiman's deck. And Icer has both of them in his hand.
Yeah, Icer has pretty much exactly what he needs at this stage. It's hard to imagine a better opening hand for him. What I will say is that even if Icer does take this game away, Naiman still has the advantage because he's still the person that gets to counter Q next. Starting 1 win up, again in last hero standing, is super important. And he's going to be able to counter Q with his mage if he wants to, after losing this game. If he loses, it's not 100% yet, just highly likely.
Seems like it, yes.
It does. I mean, Hungry Crab is just such a brutal card in this sort of position. Icer not feeling the need to play it yet because he knows Naiman's deck list. He knows that his deck is full of Murlocs.
It's not even about that. When he saw the jump, he
buffs,
thought
right?
about
Yeah.
that, well, that buffed minion is actually a better target for my Hungry Crab.
Of course.
So even after the second jump, even better, right? If the second jump would actually upgrade the same Murloc, that would have been an insane steal from Icer. So he did purposely wait with that Hungry Crab, and I like that very much. In this case, it doesn't really make a difference because the buffs went to two different Murlocs, but it's still very important that it's the same case with the other Golakka Crawler Crab against Pirates, that sometimes you just keep them because you're lacking answer to a bigger, more buffy Murloc or Pirate. Since you can kill the 1 HP, 2 HP minions relatively easy, while a direct removal like the Crab just kills whatever.
Yeah, and you know, Icer's curve has just been absolutely fine without having to play Hungry Crab. Primal Fin Totem just feels so strong, he can trade in his 1/1, play the weapon,
Yeah.
and just save the Crab even longer until something like or maybe after a Gentle Megasaur comes out, or just Murloc War Leader to eat up the 3/3 Murloc that buffs all of the others.
The biggest swing that you can do is actually get the Crab on a Murloc that was buffed by a Blessing of Kings or Spike Receipt.
Whoa, okay.
And that
You're
is
a
like
madman, Lothar.
That
You're
is
a
like the
madman.
game-winning play. And that happens actually more often than you think.
Yeah. Terrifying thought indeed. What does Naiman do this turn? He's got his 1 mana 2/4 anti-hero power, or he's got a 3 mana 1/4. Much worse stat-wise. And he wants to get Discovering. These are some bad discovers this series so far.
Last series as well. Horrible ones.
Yeah. Where's Tyrion? Where's Tarim?
Even like glyphs were horrible. Giving spellbenders, arcane explosions, stuff like that.
Yeah. Gotta say though, Cyclopean Horror, though it's usually a pretty terrible 4-drop, against a board that's this wide, it's actually better than Ascension Shieldmaster. Just strictly better. We got 5 minions on the board.
It is, but problem is that Icer still has Devolve in his deck, and then it doesn't really matter.
And the Flame Tongue Totem on the board,
Yeah.
which just renders any taunt minion pretty much useless.
That is true.
And all Naiman's got, really, are minions that don't impact the board in any way. He can't do anything about the Flame Tongue Totem yet.
That Rallying, this is the thing. Rallying Blade made its way to the Paladin decks because they are having really big problems with totems, with early game minions. Not only totems, but definitely totems in this situation. When you see a Flame Tongue Totem, a Manatee Totem, Primal Fin Totem, and every single of those are just horrible outcomes for the Paladin, and he doesn't have a way of dealing with it.
You mentioned the Devolve a moment ago. You said that it's a good counter for the Cyclopean Horror. Well, there it is, picked up off the top. It just feels a little bit cleaner than trading away the whole board here. A 4 mana 3/8 with Taunt is just fantastic. But most 3 mana minions have worse stats than this.
Yeah. Still not sure about the Devolve. It's very juicy. It looks very juicy, but at the same time, you want to have an answer to the Spike Receipt.
Yep, that's true.
If the Spike Receipt is not going to get played on a Murloc, then your Crab can't really deal with it. So then you have the Devolve.
There was a time back when Shaman decks with Devolve were in the meta that also ran Hex. There was a time where the Paladins would try and use the Spike Rich Steed on a minion that had been hexed so that then can't be devolved. It's a mistake that we saw Super JJ make in one tournament.
Well, Naiman is facing a really tough decision. He knows that Death Rattle will be better against direct removal, and it's still pretty decent against board from Icer. So I would kind of lean towards Death Rattle effect. But at the same time, plus 3 HP when he has a second Megazord in hand is very tempting as well.
That's true. Divine Shield just feels a little bit worse than the health, which Naiman eventually goes for.
And he went for the plus 3 HP because of the fact that he has the second Megazord in hand, and unfortunately this will bite him back, because now Icer has the perfect opportunity to grab some value out of the really hungry Crab.
That Crab is looking really hungry, yeah. is now the time to play it, Icer. You've been holding on to it for the entire game so far. Violet Illusionist coming off of the Evolve there. Don't think that makes too much of a difference in the Shaman deck. It may prevent Jade Claws from dealing him any damage later, but finally, Hungry Crab doing its job. Goodbye, Big Murloc.
For a second, I thought actually Icer will keep the Hungry Crab in his
Seems to
hand.
be really saving it, didn't he?
Because he wanted to get that Spikered Steed out of the hand from Naiman and then just slap it then, you know? But he had the Evolve, so it wasn't really that needed. Now it's a 1-1. Icer did take the counter Q, and now he's gonna play more with his Shaman. What are the options for Naiman?
Well, Naiman still has his Mage, and he still has
His Warrior, right?
Warrior, yeah, that's right.
Well, the Warrior doesn't really feel that great against Shamans.
Is there a Warrior?
Am I mistaken?
Lost the fourth.
Sorry, Icer has the Pirate Warrior.
Yeah, it's also his Shaman. It's Naiman has got the Shaman, or it's easier if we just look on the screen, probably, isn't it? Like that? Yeah, it's going to be the Shaman or the Mage. Does he want to go for the mirror match? Does he want to go for the Mage? Most of the time, you'd go for the Mage, I think, if you're running cards like Frost Nova and Flame Strike and the Discover Mage type thing. But Naiman's Mage is not a Discover Mage, it's a Secret Mage. Like Icer's.
And he's topping the curve at Antonidas. So, no Yogg in Naiman's deck, but a bad build instead.
Never mind. It's going to be the Shaman Mirror. So yeah, as I was saying, it's decks like Freeze Mage and Discover Mage, which is so... Look, Icer playing with his Hungry Crab there. It's decks like the Discover Mage and the Freeze Mage that are so strong against Evolve Shaman. All of the ways they've got to freeze the board, clear the board, Doomsayer, Volcanic Potions, all of that stuff. But Secret Mage isn't quite as good at controlling these boards. So I'm not too surprised that Naiman went for the mirror match here.
But it doesn't really spell well for Naiman. When you have to rely on a mirror match as a counter Q, that puts you on a disadvantage, basically.
Both of these decks run Sea Giant. Only Icer's runs Barnes, which may give him a slight edge. Both are running double Doppelgangster, though we haven't seen that many Doppelgangsters this weekend. I think they've just been avoiding the stream, honestly.
Well, we have seen yesterday one.
Right, but that's
it
much
wasn't
fewer
really
than,
that many times happening.
All right, pretty much the same start on both sides. Funnily enough, both of these players have missed out on the Primal Fin Totem, which I feel is one of the more relevant cards at the start of this sort of matchup. You want to get as wide on the board as fast as possible. That's how Corsair going to clean up the rest of the weapon and bring out patches. That's something Icer is going to want to get as soon as possible. He wants to get patches out, but not by drawing it.
Although, like, there's a lot of decks when drawing patches feels completely horrible. You can name an example, Pirate Warrior.
Of course.
But in the Shaman, it's actually not that terrible as many people think, because of the fact that we have a lot of synergy with the deck from hand. Flame Tongue Totem, Bloodlust comes into mind.
Oh, Bloodlust, patches into Bloodlust is one of the most terrifying things to have to face against. If you haven't seen your opponent's patches yet, and you're trying to play around Bloodlust, you always have to add 4 to their potential total.
Yep, exactly. So, it's not that bad. It's honestly not that bad to draw patches when you're playing with a Shaman. Of course, you would rather have something else, but it's not a strategy.
Second Jade Claws for Icer already. Jade Lightning sitting in the hand as well. These Jade cards are going to get pretty big pretty fast.
Similar setup for Naiman as well. Double Jade Claws and a Lightning as well. Actually, they have almost mirrored hands. The difference is the Bloodlust.
Bloodlust, which is capable of just taking Naiman the game very, very early if Icer's not able to contest this board. And unfortunately, Icer's hand kind of lacking. He's had to put down the Flame Tongue Totem already. And Naiman can just come right back and use his Flame Tongue Totem to deal with Icer's Flame Tongue Totem, or he could just play Jade Lightning.
Well, if he goes for the Flame Totem and the Jade Claw, he's able to punish two creatures from Icer. I'm not exactly sure if that's the correct way of doing this, because then a single point of damage from Icer will deal with the Flame Totem. That means Milestone Portal is very scary at the same time. And if I'm not mistaken, it's a 2/2 Jade Golem for Naiman, so at least that doesn't get punished. But I think I'm more of a fan of the Jade Lightning.
Yep.
This turn.
I agree with you. It's just the most efficient way of doing this. I guess.
Although, when you play the Flame Tongue Totem and the Jade Claws, you
Yeah.
get a discount on the thing from below. And that means you will be able to play Hero Power and one thing from below on next turn.
Yeah, although there is the overload.
Oh, you're right.
Which-
Never mind then.
But this ends up being the correct play. Naiman can clear away 2 minions doing it this way, leaving only the spell damage totem alive. I do like this. It's just, I don't love, air quotes, wasting Flame Tongue Totem. It's one of the most powerful cards in this deck, in this matchup, and now Icer can just get rid of it immediately with Jade Lightning. And it come back in the same way. These guys are just bouncing back and forth, removing each other's things from the board, bit by bit. Icer picking up the Primal Fin Totem is pretty big, but it would have been much better on turn 2.
My goodness, look at that. Second Jade Lightning. This is really getting out of hand quickly.
Yeah, you thought Jade Druid was bad. Jade Shaman, or Token Shaman, going to be building up these Jade cards just as fast.
And now with this board, Icer will be pushed to use most likely the thing from below. What? What is happening here? Okay, in this case, he goes for the Jade Lightning, definitely.
Hero powering, just taking advantage of his resources bit by bit. And now it's going to be Jade Lightning on the other side. This game is getting a little bit silly.
A mirror match.
Yeah,
You might say.
In the purest sense of the word.
Jade
Exactly.
Mirror. So it's just a green mirror.
Very, very green, especially with Taunt Totems appearing as well.
All right, well, Naiman has now the advantage of sticking some minions to the board, and Icer did run out of answers.
Yeah, they've run out of Jade Lightnings now. That's enough of that shenanigans going on here. Icer just going to drop all of the totems, and he can squeeze in Think from below this turn if he wants to. It's very all in, but it also protects the Manatide totem. Oh, wow, okay. All right, it's go time for Icer right now. Naiman needs to try and deal with as much of this as he possibly can.
They are really drawing the same card. But Naiman, I feel like he would have to utilize his Bloodlust. The problem is the attack points are really awkwardly placed. +3 on the patches doesn't deal with the things from below. So he would either have to sacrifice 2 minions, the Taunt Totem and the patches to trade with the thing from below, and then you don't really need the Bloodlust on the Jade Golem because it has more than 3 already.
Well, I guess he does it the other way around. If he is playing the Bloodlust, you hit the 4/4 into the thing from below to get rid of it. You use both of the other minions to deal with the totems that are generating more value over time. So Naiman can clear everything except 2 minions if he wants to.
And
But
that's,
it feels so bad.
it feels better, but I feel like this is the tempo play that you need to do. Here we go. Yeah, I like it. It's a little bit of a sacrifice, but at the same time, your opponent did lose 2 objectives that can give him too much momentum.
Vitally as well, Naiman actually rolling the Hero Power Totem before making the trades. Oh, he's not actually trading in the Taunt Totem, so it doesn't make much of a difference. Sea Giant now going to come down. Hungry Crab wants to eat a minion on the wrong side of the board right now. It's going to do it.
Don't blame him.
It's a net
3, 4
profit of
minions,
stats
yeah.
overall, right?
It is, it is. The only problem is the devolve, of course, but at the same time you have a Sea Giant, so that's not that big of a problem. Now, Naiman though can really swing the board with 2 things from below and the Manatide Totem. He might be able to get that board back.
What to do?
Yeah, the double thing from below is vital. The fact that they're capable of eating up damage from the Sea Giant, but unfortunately Devolve is going to put a stop to them. Though Naiman has so many cards on the board, he's likely to get at least one taunt, if not two, from the Devolve that Ice is about to cast. It's definitely a pretty good time to play it.
Is he thinking about evolving this? Nah, that can't be right. Like, the Manatite Totem was way better than any other 4-drop, I would say, in this situation, in this particular board state. So if he would be aiming for the evolve, he would have to play it last. I mean, the Manatite Totem. He's going for it, okay.
Whoa,
Interesting.
just going for pure stats. Swamp King Dread.
He got some insane stats, actually. How much damage is that? Is that lethal? No.
No, it's not. It's 6 off. It's 20 damage represented on the board right now.
Wow.
Now, Devolve is kind of strange here. Swamp King Dread will become a much weaker card because Swamp King Dread only costs 7 mana. It's a 7 mana 9/9. It's good stats, and Ice is actually checking right now. He's trying to work out, is this a good Devolve? Are these well-statted minions, weakly, badly statted minions? Whew. Okay. Shield Bearer doing a great job of blocking the damage there, forcing Icer to play the Bloodlust.
And now what Icer does, he has an 11 damage that he needs to trade into a minion. That is so bad. It feels so bad for him. Wow. This is what you see when you have aggro matchups that are actually just board control matchups.
And Naiman still ends up with a better board than Icer has. Devolve there as well. Not going to do that much now, but the Defias Cleaner can trade straight into Sea Giant.
I don't think you can actually trade this turn with the Sea Giant. You capitalize on the fact that you can get value out of the trades.
Yeah.
So the Defias just goes into the crab, kills it.
The
You
1/1
might
go into the healing totem maybe, or the 2/1.
Yeah, exactly. So you still get to get some damage in, and wow, that taunt totem is insanely huge.
That is exactly what Naiman needed. Now you're absolutely right. There's no way Naiman is trading away Sea Giant. What's the point? It's just going to sink 8 damage into a useless O2 taunt. And Naiman looks like he's going to start winning this face race.
All right, well, let's see what's gonna happen. Is he thinking about it evolve? Nah, can't be right.
He's thinking about what can Icer draw next turn that changes things. Io is one of the better draws in the deck.
Definitely is one of the better draws.
Especially with how many Jade Lightnings and Jade Claws we've already seen used up.
How often do you see an evolved shaman getting a 5/5 and a 6/6 Jade Gold?
Yeah, I don't see that very often at all, I've got to say. Now Icer, once again, seems to have control of the board. Oh my goodness.
So the cost of the Sea Giant is 12 mana, right? So if it gets devolved...
Nothing happens to it.
Exactly. So in this case, I would say Naiman can actually play the devolve first and see the outcome anyway, then decide what to do with the Flame Cone Totem. It's a little bit of awkward placing because his Defias is in the middle.
The Devolve is super strong against Aya. That's the main thing. Oh, Sea Giant's a 10 mana minion. So it turns into Jiraxxus, which is actually worse for Naiman because of the sheer amount of health that the card has.
Then maybe he should have actually played the Flame Cone Totem first.
Yeah.
Oh, unlucky.
And Jiraxxus isn't going anywhere, but it's still only going to be sinking its damage into the Taunt Totem, so not the biggest deal for Naiman. I can't believe how close this game has ended up going. Icer picking up his second Flame Tongue Totem now, but it's just not relevant in the slightest.
It's not, although Naiman, the very characteristic thing about Evolved Shamans is the fact that they're lacking burst damage. Both of those decks actually did get to draw the burst already, and they used it. The Jade Claws, the Flame Tongue Totems, the Jade Lightnings were all used. So now it's an honest battle every single turn. And that means that both of those guys can actually win the game still because of trade values.
It's really up to Icer at this stage to play defensively. He's the guy that's got much less health left. He's got the biggest body on the board. He can use that to contest and slowly get the board back, but he's gonna need another tool or two to finish this board up. Icer would even maybe like a Maelstrom portal, just to clean up these minions that have 1 health. If he can roll spell damage with that, that's absolutely great.
Yeah. Whew. What a game. Back and forth, back and forth.
And Naiman, don't forget, Naiman queued this as a counter queue. It is vital for him that he wins this, or he puts himself in a very weak position in the rest of this last hero standing set. That's a really good draw from Icer. He can defend himself for a little bit longer. Thing from below is going to be 0 mana, but Rathion comes with a card draw.
That is actually insane when you think about it. He can even play the Bloodsteel Corsair.
There are no dragons in this deck, so very unlikely that its effect ever went off. And Patches, still not drawn, comes out and is able to make an extra trade against one of these 1/1 minions. Now Icer fully in control of this board.
The fact that he is able to kill a totem is even more impactful than you think it is, because of the fact that there's the smaller chance now of rolling a taunt totem.
Right.
And suddenly, it looks like Naiman is in disadvantage. The Stonehill defender made a huge switch on the board control here for Icer, and now Naiman is looking at a really tough spot.
Stonehill Defender was just a 9 mana, play two taunts, draw a card. That's not bad in this type of situation.
Not bad. Naiman needs to get a draw from that mana tournament. That draw needs to be Doppelgangster or Evolve, and the next draw needs to be Doppelgangster or Evolve. So he has the combo. Otherwise, I don't see him winning this game at all.
It really is a long way to go from here, and we can't stress enough how important it is to Naiman. This is to get top 4 in DreamHack Atlanta 2017. So much prize money and HCT points, and pride is on the line here. Primal Fin Totem on its own just is not good enough.
Definitely not. What is the next draw for Naiman? Is it a Doppelgangster? It's an Evolve, so next turn, he's still high on life, 26 HP. So if he gets to draw a Doppelgangster next turn, there might be still a small chance of making a comeback. There might be a light at the end of the tunnel here.
Another thing that is a very small possibility is that if Naiman hero powered and played Evolve, he could get a Doomsayer.
Yeah.
And Icer doesn't actually have the damage to deal with a Doomsayer with the board he's got, which is quite funny when you think about it.
I don't think Naiman will risk it though. Unless, really, there's no other way. And there's a chance of getting a Taunt Totem into a Doomsayer, and your opponent will not have time to kill you and just destroy the entire board.
Naiman does have double Doppelgangster in this deck, so it would make perfect sense if he held onto it. But if he does Evolve here, that is what he's going to be hoping for, simply to get a Doomsayer. Icer has 6 damage represented on the board, not 7. He's going to wait.
Another Bloodsteel Corsair, a little bit late to the party after 2 weapons were already played.
And this one doesn't come with the patches.
Yes.
Icer just cleanly gonna get rid of as much of this as possible.
We didn't see a single Milestone Portal as well.
We haven't, you're right. These guys have drawn very similarly, especially in the first few turns of this game. Second Primal Fin Totem is just too little. And now there is 7 damage on the board for Icer. So whereas Naiman has the exact same chance of getting a Doomsayer from Totem Evolve, now 1 Doomsayer wouldn't be enough. It would have to be Doomsayer plus a Taunt, or 2 Doomsayers, or something with a ridiculously low percentage like that.
Well, it's looking really awkward for Naiman. What a game. From every single turn so far in this game was just a swing of power from both players, especially in the early game with the Jade Claws.
It's been a surprisingly long game considering how you'd expect this matchup to go.
Well, we did lack an explosive evolve and explosive default.
Yeah, but the weird thing there is that the start for both sides was explosive. Both Jade Lightnings, both Jade Claws. Okay, hold on a moment. Does Icer even want to evolve this board? Because he can play Barnes and get a Doppelgangster from or something and then evolve that.
That wouldn't be so bad.
But Jiraxxus is so strong.
Okay.
He's actually not going to get a card from Barnes after all.
Yeah.
He didn't have a way of sacrificing 2 minions.
Yeah, exactly. There was no way of getting a minion down. In this case, he has a full board anyway. Doesn't really matter that much. Is there a Doppelgangster? No. Stonehill Defender. Can
Okay, well,
get a Rathian as well.
that is capable of generating value. Thing from below looks like the best we've got. Giant Mastodon isn't quite playable this turn with the Stonehill Defender.
You know what? I think actually the Giant Mastodon is the pick.
You think he just waits and plays the next turn?
Yeah.
Yep.
I think it is. Your opponent will have to sacrifice a lot of power to go through it. And then it's 2, 5, 6. It's only 9 damage on the board.
That's true.
I think really the Giant Mastodon is the best pick here in this situation.
Icer will have a second Bloodlust sitting around somewhere, though. That's the only thing the Naiman's going to have to consider. But with this board as it looks at the moment, there's no way to beat the second Bloodlust anyway. Goes with the Thing from below, though. I guess Naiman is hoping upon all hopes that he can draw Doppelgangster next turn and play Doppelgangster Thing from below, evolve, and get a good enough board from that to actually contest what Icer's got.
I find it a little bit odd because he did wait. If he wants to pick up the Thing from below, I was thinking that he wants to play it this turn. Oh my god, and a Char. And a 4-mana 7/7. Those are pretty insane.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a Doppelgangster. Look at that.
Oh, it happened! I thought the Doppelgangsters had been dodging us all weekend, but here we go. Can this board possibly compete with the one that Icer just made? No.
Doesn't look like it.
None of these cards are even as strong as Icer's 4-mana card, and Naiman has to concede. He lost the counter Q game and is now stuck with only his Secret Mage left.
And the Secret Mage, wait, that's Icer. And the Secret Mage from Naiman is a little bit different. The difference is maybe not that big because we have one Babbling Book and one Mirror Entity, no Yogg. But it's actually impactful in a lot of matchups, and in this case, against the Shaman, the Babbling Book might be a winning card. Because it gives you a small minion to play on turn 1 when you don't have the mana of them that can trade with the first Jade Golem, or maybe even get a Patches killed, which is important, and you still retain a card advantage, which can be an AoE effect.
Primordial Glyph, absolutely key against the Shaman as well. It's able to pick up Volcanic Potions, Flame Strikes, and Naiman ending up with both Glyphs in his opening hand. Not bad at all. Mana Worm picked up off to the top there. Incredibly relevant. This matchup's still not as strong for the Mage as a Freeze or Discover Mage would have been. But it's going to have a good shot, especially with a start like this. The thing for Naiman is that he obviously believed that this deck is worse against the Shaman than the mirror matches. So he's not going to be feeling good right now about his chances of getting into top 4. He needs to win an uphill climb here.
He has, but he just witnessed the fact that Icer has a Patches in his hand. If that's not a sign that you have a chance, then I don't know what is.
What to do?
One card less for Icer, and well, basically he plays a Stuntas board now in his deck, and he's not playing Quest Rogue, so it's actually a downside. Primordial Glyph Spellbender in this matchup plays only around Jade Lightning.
Jade Lightning, yeah, that's the big one. Frostbolt for free is always fun. 0 mana, deal 3 damage, freeze a minion. But Kabbalah's Tome might be tempting too. The problem with Kabbalah's Tome in this matchup is that you rarely have enough time to play it, but the benefit from getting it from Primordial Glyph is that it only costs 3 mana. Naiman can play the tome next turn if he wants to.
But he also has Sorcerer's Apprentice. And so in this case, he actually gets a discount on that Cabal Storm if he would really like to.
True, but it would prevent him from playing it this turn. Sorcerer's Apprentice into Primordial Glyph this turn, however, might be a very good way to go. It means he's using up all of his mana by playing those 2 cards, but any 3 mana spell he gets from the Discover, he could then play for free.
Yeah, so any secret can actually be played.
It also buffs up the Mana Worm enough to get rid of the Totem, and then the Murloc on Icer's side of the board itself won't do enough damage to deal with the Mana Worm. So Naiman is looking strong here.
Goes for the Cabal Stone instead, interesting.
That's still fine though, you still buff up the Mana Worm, you're still able to make this trade, and the Murloc still isn't able to deal with it.
So he doesn't want to play the Sorcerer's Apprentice into a Jade Claw, I assume. That would be the thing.
Yeah, sure. And that's not a bad Kabbalah's Tome either. Arcane Explosion can be okay in this matchup, but Frost Nova's great.
White Ice, Hot Spring Guardian. Those were the choices for Icer. He went with the White Ice. Not really that impactful also if the White Eye dies and you just get to draw the Storm Guardian. It's not the best target for the Evolve.
It's not. It's not. You don't want to evolve a 5 mana 10/10, just like you don't want to evolve a 4 mana 7/7.
Exactly.
Stonial Defender's really awkward here because Naiman, if he can help it, he doesn't want to trade this Mana Worm in now. It's already in such a strong position. Like, it's already got 3 attack. If he can somehow make it live a little bit longer. Again, I really like Sorcerer's Apprentice into Primordial Glyph here.
The problem is that even if that Mana Worm gets to live, he knows that there's a Patches in hand in his opponent,
Of course he does, doesn't he?
that Mana Worm will die for a cost of 1 mana next turn.
Oh. Firelands Portal is always so good for 5 mana. Mana Bind might be tempting to take for the mind games, but I think it's almost always the Portal here.
It's not really that much of a mind games when you play against a Shaman and his spells are not really that impactful. You can't really anticipate that the first spell that's gonna get played will be Jade Lightning.
Right.
It can be, you know, in this situation, it can be even a coin. And you don't want to get that anytime.
There's the Doppelgangster. Icer has part 1 of the 2 tools that he needs to create his board and win this game. But Naiman actually has the ability to play Burgly Bully down on turn 5, almost uncontested. And as we can see, it's very difficult for Icer to deal with it. He'd have to play Jade Lightning plus Patches.
Yeah, that's actually amazing for Naiman to drop it just like that right now. We've seen a return of Burgly Bullies in the middle game. It makes sense with those mages because they, first of all, play Antonidas. Second of all, they play Yogg. Well, in this case, Naiman actually doesn't play it, but usually they do. And the synergy with just gaining tempo is insanely impactful, especially when you can combine it with Sorcerer's Apprentice to even capitalize more on that.
And, you know, 5 mana Firelands Portals do seem like a pretty good way of dealing with White Eyes. Naiman has complete control of the board right now. Bloodlust's not going to do anything for the time being. Jade Lightning plus Patches is the only way, once again, that Icer can get rid of this Burgly Bully, at least this turn.
Well, he can always roll the
damage.
spell damage totem, but it seems unreliable, only 25%, and if he doesn't hit it, then he needs to use the coin. Oh.
He did hit it, but he played that very fast.
Well, that's awkward.
I wonder if Icer still would have chosen, even if he knew that would be spell damage, if he still would have chosen not to play the Jade Lightning. He wants to prevent Naiman maybe from getting any coins whatsoever. I don't agree that it's the right play, but maybe Icer is just terrified of Archmage Antonidas.
Maybe this is something that I talked about already like twice during the broadcast, not today, but the fact is that someone plays a Burgly Bully in the mage and slams it down on the table, his opponent needs to change the entire game planning that he had. He needs to take into account the amount of coins that he can give to his opponent, if he can even give those coins to his opponent.
Right.
And most likely, the players will just switch to a more board-centric strategy and play more minions, which can actually benefit the mage even more in case he gets an AoE effect.
Yep. True, and now Naiman just has everything he could possibly want going for him at the moment. Icer, his position seems to get worse and worse. He's now going to play the Jade Lightning, which he could have played last turn to get rid of this Burgly Bully, but he didn't. But at least Patches is able to deal with the Kirin Mage.
Small mistake with the placement as well from Icer when it comes to the Flame Tongue Totem. Would have played the Lightning as the last card to get it on the right side.
Yep.
Still doesn't really matter because the Flame Tongue Totem has no way of being protected.
Icer's pretty much in the position now where he needs to pick up Evolve, right? He needs to get that Doppelgangster Evolve turn, preferably with Thing from below as well. He knows Naiman doesn't have board clears unless one of those 3 cards from Kabbalah's Tome is a board clear. And again, all 3 cards that were generated from Kabbalah's Tome are still sitting in Naiman's hand. The Frost Nova, the Pyroblast, and the Arcane Explosion.
Well, that's a huge swing. Naiman is actually looking forward to take this game. With the Pyroblast available next turn, that's almost equal.
Yeah, unless Icer can do something about Naiman's board, and he can't quite do enough. If he puts up the Thing from below, then that's great. But Coin Pyroblast would buff up the Mana Worm strong enough to deal with the Thing from below.
Yep.
Kodo goes face, Pyroblast finishes the job. There's nothing Icer can do. Naiman going to take game number 4. We are going once again to the final game of this series. Both of these players fighting for their place in the DreamHack Atlanta top 4.
Who would have knew that Naiman will gonna get the win against the Shaman of a deck that he didn't want to pick up in the first place?
Right. And that's kind of an irony when it comes to Last Hero Standing. You do get reverse sweeps. And that has to happen for a reverse sweep to happen. You have to then end up winning with the matchup that you didn't expect to win. Naiman just double checks, counts everything, makes sure he does have the damage that he believes he has, and there we go. Going to go to game number 5, and it's going to be Naiman's Mage versus Icer's Pirate Warrior.
That is a very interesting matchup. It all depends on the tempo swings. And that is kind of crucial for Naiman because he has Mirror Entity and the Spellbender is useless in this deck, right? Because there's not even a Mortal Strike, which usually is played for phase damage anyway.
We've seen a distinct lack of Mortal Strike in this tournament, actually. We were talking, I think, Lorinda and I yesterday about how there haven't been many Leroy Jenkins. Icer's Pirate Warrior does run Leroy. It also runs 2 Bitter Tide Hydras, so it's on the heavy side.
It is. I find that interesting. No green skin as well, so he is less focused on the weapon side.
Right.
Nagako's
Icer really thinking really hard about this Mulligan. He just crossed out the Fiery War Axe and then reticked it so many times. Maybe he's playing mind games right now. I'm pretty sure you keep the Fiery War Axe every time, right?
Yeah, I mean, the Fiery War Axe is too big of a deal, especially against the Kirin Mages, but Naiman with the horrible hand. The Spellbender is literally useless.
Yep. No Mortal Strike, not a single card in the entire deck that Spellbender can actually eat up. And Naiman knows that. He knows the deck list. He'll have looked into that in advance.
Oh, that's awkward. He can play the Spellbender and just, you know, kind of bluff that it is something else. Might be a counterspell, but then Icer will be like, well, okay, if it's counterspell, then I'm guessing I'm gonna lose 1 mana for my upgrade. Or even for the coin, right?
Yeah.
So, kind of awkward.
And Icer just happily curving out 2 mana, 3/3 into the Frothing Berserker, into Coin Bittertide Hydra. It looks like he's got the sequence of turns he needs absolutely sorted. Obviously, War Axe could come down at some point. That's an option. Obviously, Upgrade could come down at some point. That's an option. But Icer is just spoiled for choice at the moment.
All depends on the next turn from Naiman. If there's a minion big enough that will require an attack from the Fear War Axe, I wouldn't be surprised if Icer just goes for the Fear War Axe, upgrade that turn, swing it. Naiman has no way of dealing with the weapon anyway, so you can be just happily... You can just be happy about playing the upgrade that turn, keep the coin for the counter spell, but at the same time, you don't need... Well, you can actually keep the coin for the counter spell because there's a heroic strike.
Right. And the upgrades. Icer just spoiled for choice. Continuously. He even picked up... We thought that his 3-drop, he had enough choices, War Axe upgrade or Frothing Berserker, but then he picks up South Sea Captain, which ends up being even better.
Excuse me, you are on.
But Naiman actually, thanks to the sheer tempo of Medivh's Valet, managed to get himself back on this board.
And you know what? The Spellbender now that I said was useless, turns out it was the activator that Naiman needed to make a comeback.
And when you think about it, because there's no way that Spellbender can proc, that Spellbender was always going to be there and was always going to activate Medivh's Valet at some point.
Uh-huh.
So useless secrets just don't exist in Secret Mage.
Well, now it's useless.
Now, okay, come on now.
But the Frostbolt is not useless at all. Will stop the Hydra from attacking for 1 turn and still will deal the damage to the face as well.
Well, we were talking about how strong a start Icer had with the Pirate Warrior. Naiman seems to have just picked up some of the tools he needs. He's able to Frostbolt the Bitterside Hydra and start pinging it just to remove 3 health from the Warrior bit by bit.
The mirror entity is actually insane as well.
What to do?
Yep. If it picks up Frothing Berserker,
It doesn't really matter. It can, whatever minion it will be, it's important for Naiman to just get the tempo back. And that's something that will happen with the mana that he used in the previous turn, so will allow him to catch up on the board on the next turn. It's especially important with that Frostbolt being played right now. He might be thinking though about the ping to just get more damage in, but I really like that he played the mirror entity this turn.
Yep.
It will just capitalize on the fact that he had really good tempo plays. But if I'm not mistaken, he's not playing any other... It can be a counterspell? Okay, so it can be a counterspell.
yeah, there are 2 counterspells in the deck, so you could argue that that's the most likely secret that it is. Not that that affects the Pirate Warrior too much. As you were saying, it's only really Heroic Strike and the upgrade that we see in the hand. But Icer's not going to be looking at playing upgrade this turn probably anyway. It's going to be 3-drop plus Fiery War Axe, I imagine. Which 3-drop, though?
That's the thing. Running Berserker always seems better, but in this situation with the mirror entity, this is awkward.
It is better for Naiman. It's better for Naiman.
Definitely better for Naiman, yes. Now if he attacks into the minion, both Rodin Berserkers gain in attack. Wow, this is a little bit awkward. If that heroic, if that primordial glyph will actually get a Cone of Cold, Frost Nova, or any other way of stopping the attacks, it would be absolutely bonkers.
Oh, there are some good options here. Ice Barrier and Volcanic Potion both do something. Volcanic Potion is capable of clearing a board at some point. Ice Barrier is 8 extra health, which can be necessary. I've got to admit, I'm a little bit surprised he didn't go for the Ice Barrier, but Volcanic Potion does represent more damage because of the Frothing Berserkers.
It's 3 damage from the Hydra, and then plus 4, that's 8, that's 11, that's 13.
That is insane! Frothing Berserker from Icer, giving it to Naiman.
It's exactly lethal. He spotted that immediately with the pick from the Heroic Glyph. Really well played by Naiman. This is why he's such a good player.
What an incredible performance and a well-deserved slot in the top 4 from Naiman. What sort of lethal was that, Lorinda?
Well, the Volcanic Potion was the de-icer, I guess.
Oh dear, I'm out. You guys can just finish this up.
Well, that was actually pretty sick, because first of all, Mirror Entity that was set up the previous turn allowed this to happen, right? The Volcanic Potion, when you think about it, for 3 mana, it did add up 4 damage. For the Floating Berserker, that deal 3 damage from the Hydra, so that's 7 damage from just a single card, and then the Medivh's Valet was traded in the Hydra to net +1 damage as well.
And that was an exciting way to end that match. And I think that's what people say when they want random effects to make you think, that's the sort of random effects they make you think. He was probably going to win that game anyway, the way he set up the mirror entity, the way he set the board up. But the random effects gave him a chance to actually show off how skillful he was at the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the more complicated lethals that I've seen. The fact that you've got to take into account the damage that Bittertide Hydra's dealing to himself, the damage the Frothing Berserker, which obviously isn't usually in the deck, gets buffed from the Volcanic Potion. There are a lot of mechanics going on there, but as you said, Naiman spotted it instantly. Incredible.
Very well played.
That was one of the most exciting matches we've seen, I think. It looked for all the world like Icer was going to get there, and then Naiman finding a way to keep us guys, the Europeans, still in this tournament.
Good job,
Thank you for that, Naiman. But we are going to finish up this round, and then this will be the fourth quarterfinal coming up next. We are going to go to Dr. Jinky Ninky.
Dr. J. Dr. J.
Jicky Ninky, thank you, Lothar, bailing me out, as also taking on Sir Slim, where there may be some vested interest, but we're not going to be biased at all in that one. We're going to take a very, very quick change around, and we'll see you in a moment.